Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi, my name is AT20-MTN3013. In this video, I am going to share some tips and procedure on how to set up a computer hardware and installing Windows 10. Don't worry, it is very simple and easy to follow all of these instructions if you are doing it step by step as shown in this video. A typical desktop computer comes down to these 7 essential parts. There is case, power supply, motherboard, CPU, RAM, hard drives, and graphics card. These are fundamental parts of any desktop computer. Now, let's look at the purpose of each component.
So, you've decided to build your own PC? Congratulations, you've made the right choice. By building your own PC, you're entering a world of serious power, customization, and cutting-edge tech. Whether you bought your parts individually or got them all at once in one of Newegg's pre-selected kits, you've come to the right place. First thing, you're going to remove the thumb screws that allow you to take both of the side panels off and show off your case's interior. You'll see a series of holes that correlate to the screw holes scattered around your motherboard. If the holes in the case are empty, look for these little parts called standoffs, and screw them in those holes in the case. Carefully place the CPU in the socket, oriented correctly, until it's resting flat in its natural habitat. It should look and feel right, with no corners hanging out or crooked lines. Next, you're going to bring the latch back down and the metal casing with it. You can see an example of us installing coolers here, and the main principle should be roughly the same. You're going to want to plug the cable from the fan into your motherboard's fan header to make sure it has power. You're going to line them up so they match, then slide the RAM into the slot. The 2 small latches will audibly click into place when the stick is properly inserted. Next, you're going to use the included screws to attach the motherboard to the standoffs, and therefore to the case. Once there's room, you're going to want to pick up your GPU carefully, again, avoiding the contact points, and insert it into the PCIe slot. Check this out to get a feel for it. This 3.5-inch hard drive went in through the back of the case. We pulled out the simple plastic mount and then popped it right back in. Line it up with the ports on your motherboard so you know the correct orientation. Then, you're going to pop it into the case right here. You might have to really push it, but you're going to want to make sure it's in there real good. You'll usually see a square area with 4 screws. Slide your PSU in there and make sure the fan is facing the vent in the case. The next step is to simply plug the cable from your PSU into the corresponding component. This can be a little tricky depending on the layout of your case, but be patient. SATA cables look like this, and the SATA ports on the motherboard look like this. So just like you did with the power supply, use a SATA cable to connect the two, and do your absolute best to keep them out of sight and away from the fan. Everything installed? Then you're done. The build is complete. You did it! Don't close your case up just yet, just plug in your monitor, mouse, and keyboard, and finally, the power cable that came with your PSU. Plug that sucker in and flip the power switch on the PSU. Take a deep breath and hit the power button on your case. If it spins up, all your fans start running and you see your motherboard logo on your display, congratulations, your build works!
Once your new computer is finally fully operational, there's still a few more things to do, including entering the BIOS and checking or changing a couple things and installing software like your operating system and other programs.
The operating system, or OS, is the program that lets you interact with your computer. Together, the operating system and computer hardware form a complete system that determines what your computer can do. There are many different operating systems. Two of the most common ones are Microsoft Windows and Mac OS. Windows comes preloaded on most personal computers, while Mac OS runs on all new Macs.
Before I start, first I will explain something about installing Windows 10. Windows 10 is available in two different boot modes, UEFI and Legacy, and 32-bit and 64-bit version. 32-bit version is for computers which have 32-bit CPU, and 32-bit version of Windows can recognize maximum 4 gigs of RAM memory. 64-bit version can be installed on most computers and it's recommended for every new computer. Windows 10 Home 64-bit can recognize up to 128 gigs of RAM, and the Windows 10 Pro and Enterprise can recognize up to 512 gigs of RAM memory. After installing, Windows 10 will automatically install most of drivers, but if you're doing this on a laptop, before installing it's recommended to download your drivers manually from your laptop's manufacturer's website, especially if you're using AMD laptop or laptop which have 80 Radeon graphics. Also is recommended to install the chipset, sound, Internet LAN and wireless drivers manually. If using some of newer Asus laptop, then maybe we'll need to use a USB mouse during installing Windows 10, because the trackpad will not work during installing process. But don't worry, after installing everything will work fine. Now let's move on. How to create bootable USB with Windows 10. To create boot USB with Windows 10, we'll need access to Windows computer and minimum 4 gigs of USB. 8 gigs is recommended because have enough space to place your PC or laptop drivers. To download Windows 10, open your browser and go to Microsoft website. Also this link you can find under a video description. On the Microsoft website, select Download Tool Now button to download Media Creation Tool. After downloading finish it, insert the USB and run the Media Creation Tool. In Media Creation Tool, select Accept button. In the next window, select Create installation media for another PC. In this window, you can select your language, Windows edition, and you can choose between 32-bit and 64-bit version. On the next window, select USB flash. Select Next and again Next to start with creating bootable USB. Now, the Media Creation Tool will automatically download and create bootable USB. After creating USB, just select Finish. Now, after creating boot USB, visit your PC or laptop manufacturer's website and download the drivers. After download the drivers, open the USB with Windows 10 and create new folder, name it Other or Drivers. In this folder, copy your PC or laptop drivers, but also you can use another USB to place the drivers. Now let's move on installing process. Insert the USB with Windows 10 and start your PC or laptop. During startup, keep pressing boot menu button to access in a boot menu. In my case, it's a F12. Under a video description, I will place other boot menu buttons including laptops. In the boot menu, you can choose which boot mode to use, I mean Legacy or UEFI. For example, my USB is Kingston. UEFI Kingston it's a UEFI boot mode, and just Kingston it's a Legacy boot mode. Because I'm using newer PC, I will choose UEFI. Now, on the first screen, select Next. On this screen, the Windows 10 will ask to enter the serial key. Here you can enter the serial key or you can do it later after installing the Windows. On this screen, you can choose which Windows you want to install. I will choose Windows 10 Pro. Now, here select I accept the license terms and go Next. On this screen, select Custom, install Windows Only Advanced. Now, in Windows Boot Manager, select your disk and select New to create new partition and install the Windows. If you want to create more partitions in same disk, then select New and enter the size of the partition but in megabytes. After creating first partition, then select unallocated space and create other partition. But also you can create more partitions in one disk. Now create your partition or partitions, select your primary partition and go next to start with installing the Windows. During installing process, the Windows will reboot several times, and do not turn off or restart your computer manually. In installing process, the Windows will ask for personal settings, informations and creating computer account. After boot, the Windows will start to search, download and install basic drivers automatically. How I said before, some drivers for sound, chipset, wireless, and if you have 80 Radeon graphics, it's recommended to install it manually. Also, if you have AMD laptop, then it's recommended to install all drivers manually. I'm saying this because the Windows is still not perfect, correctly to find and install some drivers. Now, let's move on installing basic apps, browsers and antivirus. I will show one really simple and fast way how to do this. Open the browser and go to ninite.com. Ninite is a package management system that will automatically install Windows applications. How you can see, here you have a lot of applications. Everything what need to do is to select applications which want to download and install. After you have selected the applications which want to download and install, select Get your Ninite. After downloading the installer, select the Run button. Now, the Ninite installer will automatically download and install selected applications. After installing your applications, you can continue to set up the applications. For example, in Mozilla and Google Chrome, I will set google.com as homepage, but you can choose some other, your own homepage. After this, I will continue to set up iTunes, Winamp, and I will activate the antivirus. Some free antiviruses need to be activated before using, and if you don't make this free activation, the antivirus may not working. Probably you will ask about Office. As Office, I will use OpenOffice. The OpenOffice is totally free to download and free to use. Also, download link you can find under a video description. OpenOffice is very similar like Microsoft Office. You can write documents like in Microsoft Word, make presentations like in PowerPoint, and have same features like Microsoft Excel. And this was some basic installing process. After this, you can continue with your personal customization, installing your favorite games and other stuff.